May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC, Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we've got a guest, Tim Burkett. We did a podcast with Tim, I don't know, a couple of years ago or so. I don't know how long ago. And, he was an early Shunryu Suzuki student. Actually, the Los Altos Zendo came out of a little group he started. And I don't think we get into that here. That was probably in the other podcast. You can read about it on cuke.com, going to his page. Because there's an old interview with him where he goes into that. Anyway, what he's going to talk about today is his new book, which is Enlightenment Is an Accident. Ancient Wisdom and Simple Practices to Make You Accident Prone. And it's by Tim. And this is his third book, I think. And he did Nothing Holy About It, and Zen in the Age of Anxiety. Nothing holy about it. The Zen of being just who you are. Zen in the Age of Anxiety. Wisdom for navigating our... Oh, it cuts it off. Wisdom for navigating our modern lives. Anyway, enlightenment is an accident. We had an interesting time with that because he used that phrase in, I guess, Nothing Holy About It. Was there another book that, because, I'd go over stuff with him. Yeah, I guess it was that book. It might have been Zen in the Age of Anxiety, but I don't know. But anyway, I used that phrase in the book. And he wasn't sure where he got it. And I said, well, it's not Suzuki. And Andrew Main got on board with us on that. And he said he'd heard it from Aiken in Hawaii. But he wasn't sure it was original with Aiken. And then I asked John Tarrant and David Weinstein, who studied with Aiken. They remembered him saying it, but they thought he got it from. They thought maybe he'd gotten it from Rajneesh. So I called up Richard Baker. Probably I didn't call him about this. We were talking about something else, and I told him about it, or I wrote him about it, maybe. And he said, "Yeah, it's got some truth to it, but yeah." And he said, "I remember Rajneesh. It was attributed to Rajneesh, but I think Rajneesh got it from someone else." And then Wanda finally found it. Wanda Isle, Tim's. Well, she's getting credit as a co-author in this book. It was Krishnamurti. So it came all the way through that. So anyway, Tim likes it, and so it's his. Enlightenment Is an Accident. Ancient wisdom and simple practices to make you accident prone. And he's really got good advice. And he's very clear in the podcast too. So I should let him talk. That's enough for me. So, hey, let's, just as soon as we've had our pause to meditate, let's give Tim a call. All right. Very good. Oh, I should add that he's no longer the abbot of the Minneapolis Zen Meditation Center. He's retired and is senior teacher. He's still teaching there. Okay, here we go. So when you hear the bell, if you're of such a mind, hit pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're ready to come back, hit unpause. And we'll be here to hit the bell to end the meditation or whatever. And we'll give Tim Burkett a call.
Hi, David.
Oh, hi. So, Tim, you've got a new book out.
Yep.
You're just churning them out one after another, man. That's incredible. So,
have you gotten it? I mean, I know they sent it to you, but they probably sent it to San Francisco or something, right?
Well, it can get here. I just send it to my American address. We've got a good friend that's coming here soon, but my son is coming in. My younger son Clay is coming in mid-June, and he can just drop by and pick it up because we have a bodhisattvic friend who checks our mail once a week and does it. She's the
I'm sure it's there.
Yeah. All right, good. But I tend to just get Kindles.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Well, that's probably just as good once you're used to it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's easier to read. Basically reading that doesn't have to do with my work. It's I do out loud to Katrinka while she's making dinner, or she reads to me in bed at night. We do it that way. I do almost no reading, just sitting reading. It's all has to do with the work I do. So I'm
me too. I'm very much like that. Although I can't continue forever. Now you're I think 3 or 4 years younger than me. I just turned 80.
No, I'm 2 years younger than you.
Oh, 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that I thought you were just a kid.
Right. Yeah. So tell us about your new book.
Well, my new book is called Enlightenment Is an Accident, Ancient Wisdom and Practices to Make You Accident Prone. And that's really the theme. Now, that's the theme. There are 3 parts. The first part is sort of I talk about the settling in phase, to settling into doing some kind of a Buddhist practice. And I talk about needing to be careful not to do spiritual bypassing. I see so many people doing. You know that term, right, David? spiritual bypassing?
Well, remind me.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem with religion, and it's Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, Muslimism, that we're trying to be good. And it's great that we're trying to be good, but we're trying to get somewhere, and we don't like these emotions like shame and anger that come up. So we tend to ignore them and bypass them, and they still get us. And I say in my book, many spiritual and religious organizations completely ignore these. And then I talk about listening to what these emotions have to tell us. It's important information, kind of like physical pain is important information. So I spent quite a bit of time talking about that and our shadow side, how we kind of want to run away from our shadow side. But if we're going to open up to whole being Buddha nature, we have to just embrace those facets that have been left out. And we don't need to do therapy. We can just sit in zazen and do it. I mean, Suzuki didn't teach me how to do that, but I just did it.
Yeah.
Because sitting facing that wall, you can either fake it or you can really do the work.
Yeah.
So that's the first part, the settling in, what I call the settling in phase. And I mean, it took me a while to be settled in. And did I ever get completely settled in? I don't know, but I do tell this story in the book, which I probably tell in one of my other books, about having breakfast with the sensei, as we called him then. And, I was getting ready to go to Japan. I was trying to find the best monastery, the one that I didn't want to go all the way over there if they didn't really emphasize sitting, if they had mostly ceremonies. And I was working on that for a while, and we were having breakfast, and he pointed to his cups on the wall, and he said, if you try to find the best cup, you will not appreciate any of them. So I was really into spiritual bypassing. I hadn't learned the term yet. I learned the term from my friend John Wellwood at Naropa in 1980, I think. But so that's what we have to pay. I think we have to pay attention to in the first phase, is not trying to bypass all the crud that's inside, because we have to open up to it and make peace with it if we're going to really live lightly.
Did you go to Japan?
I never did. So the story is that I listened to him and I thought, oh, here he goes again. He never really said that much to me, but he did. He said these things, and I always questioned his English. But then I went home and I thought about it for a day, and I decided not to go. I decided to stay with him. And someone asked him, was I still going to Japan? He said, I don't think so. So that was the end of that. That was the end of that.
Well, there was one temple in Japan that was for you, if that was your idea, and that would have been on Taiji. Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah,
I remember. I remember the name, and I don't remember. This was the late '60s. I don't remember if Taiji was on the list then or not. I don't know. No.
Yeah, you probably would have ended up there if you'd have gone to a regular Soto place. You would not have liked it. They're training. They're training monks to take over temples and stuff and so. And Taiji, they didn't have. So I don't know if they had any ceremony. And it was, founded by Koto Sawaki, and then Uchiyama was the teacher there. And so there have been a lot of good teachers come out of
so
Taiji.
That's the lineage. That is the lineage Hokumura is in, right?
Yeah.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. You know who he is?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that's part one of my book. And I also talk about the broken piece places in us as being the places where we can open, because they're broken. We can open if we're humble, but not fake humble. I mean, really humble. We can open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then should I go on to part two?
Hey, just keep going, man. I'm all ears.
Okay, part two. Part two is stumbling toward enlightenment, and that's the hard work phase. I have 5 sections in which I talk about different things that we need to do in our practice. The first section I talk about befriending the 5 hindrances: greed, restlessness and worry, lethargy and boredom, doubt, and aversion, anger, and hatred, and so that we can befriend these. We can open up to them. Now, sometimes they overcome us so much that we need to narrow, but we can, in Shikon Taza, really, we can open up to them by looking closely at the emotion and recognizing, this I'm quoting from the book, by looking closely at the emotion and recognizing how it intensifies what thoughts or sensations come up, we can trace it toward its root. But this isn't intellectual. This is something we need to do. So it sounds intellectual, but if it is, we don't do it. And that's the first one, befriending the 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances as portals to opening up, portals to enlightenment, because enlightenment is opening up. And the second portal is that I talk about in the book is bringing the aggregates into view. So, most of your listeners.
Wait a minute. What are the 5 hindrances again?
Craving and greed, restless and worry, lethargy and boredom, doubt, aversion, anger, and hatred.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be too overwhelming to really open up to them. But then we can come back to our breathing or back to a mantra or something for a while. We need to do that sometimes. Sometimes we do need to narrow, but basically at some point we need to open, or if we're going to open beyond the limits of little Tim or little David. So the second one, bringing the aggregates into view. This is an ancient Buddhist practice, and it's dissed in the Heart Sutra, but bringing the 5 aggregates into view, and the 5 aggregates being making contact through form, sensation, perception, impulse, and consciousness. And the problem is that the first 4 are all right now. They're all right now, in the now. 5th one, consciousness, takes over and wraps the other 4 into some kind of tight ball. So it's just planning and worrying and thinking and not paying attention to the contact, to the sensation, to the feeling, to the impulse. And when Suzuki years ago, you probably remember this, when he brought Charlotte Selver in, right?
Yeah.
Remember that, David?
Yeah.
That's all about. It's all about bypassing, at least in early Buddhism, what's known as consciousness, and coming back to your senses, and not to negate consciousness, but a consciousness that just wants to take over the whole thing with its worrying and planning and remembering and regretting and rehearsing and remembering. So here I say, here's a quote from my book: we continually have to shed those conditioned ideas like a naga. A naga, that's a serpent. Buddha was protected by a naga. You maybe remember those images of him being protected by a naga. Nagarjuna is Nagarjuna, the primary proponent philosophically of the Prajnaparamita Sutra, is named after the Nagas, and this is about shedding skins. Each time we shed a skin, we're taking a risk, but if we really shed it, we feel more alive. and we're shedding beliefs and memories that give us comfort and security in a time of confusion or loss or depression. So we shouldn't force the shedding, but through our practice, the shedding just happens, and we become a Naga. like Nagarjuna. He was I don't know, I think called I can't remember what he's called, the Serpent King or something like that.
You know what a Naga, Naga is used here. There's Sanskrit, of course, in Hinduism and Buddhism. But where you hear Naga here a lot is Naga fruit, which is dragon fruit, which is a red fruit that maybe has a scaly, I guess a sort of scaly type skin. But it's, they're really good.
Yeah, and so when this is very fascinating. When Buddhism came to China from India, the serpent turned into a dragon because they already had their dragons and they were esteemed. So and they didn't particularly like snakes. So the serpent became a dragon in Chinese Buddhism.
Well, it's definitely thought of as a dragon here.
Yeah. Interesting, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, of course, it was Buddhist before it was Hindu.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a fascinating country. Is it where you live? Is it touristy or is it not too touristy?
Sort of in between. We sort of live in between. We live on the edge of the touristy expat south, on the edge of Denpasar, the big city, near a beach.
I see. Is your wife much younger than you?
No. Well, yeah.
Well, as you guys get older.
She's 2.5 years younger, something like that.
Yeah, as you guys get older, do you have pretty good medical service there?
Yeah.
You do? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Medicare is really good in America. If you're older. So, but it's so convenient here. And, we have national insurance here. I gave up my Medicare B finally after realizing I was paying thousands of dollars for insurance I couldn't use. So they gave me a few hundred more every month from I get $340 a month from Social Security. But we have national insurance. We just got it. It just opened up to us. But we would only use that in some really important or something really important because your normal costs are so low that it's not worth it. I mean, we can walk to the newest hospital in Bali, and a doctor's visit is $7.
Wow.
I had a hernia operation with all modern private room, like hotel service, and the whole thing cost $1,000.
Wow, I see you're in the right place.
Yeah.
For your declining years.
Yeah, right. But that's true in a number of countries. It depends. Generally, a lot of people feel it's better not to have insurance if you're in a place like this. I mean, the national insurance is good. It costs us about $20 a month for both of us. And it can cover everything on something serious. So we'll see. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shall I get back to that?
Yeah, get back to that. I distracted you there.
Yeah. No. I like to talk with you. This is part 2, Stumbling Toward Enlightenment. And first, I talk about befriending the 5 hindrances and seeing them as portals. Then I talk about bringing the 5 aggregates into view and shedding skins as we do that. Then I have a chapter on mantras, gathas, and malas. And you may remember, I don't talk about this in the book, I don't think. I may talk about it in the book, that Suzuki didn't really use those things, but then he gave me this mantra to repeat, gate, gate, when I was having a really hard time at Tassajara.
Right.
And then I guess he started giving it to other people too. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Who else did he give it to? What?
I don't know. I just heard a rumor that he would. No, I don't know.
I think it was rather unusual. But it was a good call, right?
It was a great call. Yeah, it helped me focus at a time that I was just focusing, and perspiring, and it was becoming just overwhelming. And then he said to me, "You're swimming in the ocean. Go change your clothes, and when you come back, I'm going to give you a mantra." And I thought, "What the fuck, a mantra? This isn't TM." But then he told me to repeat gate. Of course I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, "Well, should I repeat the whole thing? Gate, para, some gate, or just gate. And he said, "Oh, the whole thing, but they're all the same, whether you do one or all of them."
So you did gate, para, some gate, bodhisvaha.
Yeah,
did you do bodhisvaha?
No, he didn't give me that to do.
No, just gate, para, some gate.
But then I had the incredible bodhisvaha experience, but only after I'd been probably repeating that mantra like a fool for 20 hours. I don't know, 15, 20 hours. Anyway, so I've got a chapter. I probably don't talk much about that. I don't like to advertise myself, but I have a chapter on mantras, gathas, and malas to help us stay present, so we can. Sometimes we need tools, and I just gave a talk at our Zen Center on using malas and how that gives you a tactile component. And a lot of people are starting to use them now at our Zen Center because they need the tactile component to help their mind just settle down. And then I also talk about the difference between a mantra and a gata being situational, and related to, now I wash my face. We used to have gatas all over Minneapolis Zen Center. I don't know what happened to them. One where you would wash your face, one where you go to the toilet, and we had that was from Katagiri. Katagiri must have been into it.
We had them in Tassajara, but people didn't necessarily use them.
Oh.
The one we used there, the people would use would be the bath gata.
Oh, yeah.
I used to know that, but it was really easy to say it fast. I can't remember it right now. I bet if I do, it'll just all come out. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Well, we didn't do gatas there the first year, I don't think. It was probably I was only at Tassajara, the first year. I got all the gatas. I did one for going to sleep, and I worked on the translation of them with Chino and Suzuki and Yoshimura. Really? Anyway, so yeah. Well, good. I didn't even realize that. I could have put that in the chapter, but it's too late now. Another thing is Richard Baker was really into malas. Man, when he was running Zen Center, when he was abbot, all the in crowd would have these malas, and they were really into robes and malas and accoutrements and things. But the malas,
Yeah.
it wasn't just
but
him. It wasn't just him.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, I don't remember Suzuki or using malas.
Tim,
Where
you broke up there.
Do you know?
Start over with I remember Suzuki.
Oh, yeah. I was you're using malas or even recommending them. Do you? You're gone again?
I don't remember anybody ever recommending one. I just remember them using them.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay. Anyway, so those are the different things I talk about. But there are a couple other things that I talk about. Let's see. I talk about meditation, of course, and I talk about, focus meditation and bare awareness, closing and opening, and then a little bit about shikantaza too, relaxing into don't know mind, where we're just Katagiri used to call it stupid zazen, and Huineng calls it sitting like a dunce. I've just been teaching Huineng. He doesn't say much about sitting meditation except that we should practice sitting like a dunce. That's in the 8th century. He's saying that. So I talk about meditation. Then I have a chapter on nature, because nature, you know how nature helps us move beyond our either-or thinking. And I quote John Muir. I grew up in California where John Muir and all those trails in the Sierras, there were John Muir books. And I quote John Muir, between any two pine trees, there is a door leading to a new way of life.
That's great.
That's
really good.
Yeah, and I quote a Chinese monk from the 9th century saying, "Where do I enter the path?" And the teacher saying, "Do you hear the sound of the stream?" "Yes, enter there." So I talk about wildness, how when we let go of our maps and just open up to the wildness, then we can, as Dogen says, fully enter the mountains. And fully enter the swamps, because sometimes they're the swamps. The swamps are the mountains. He says there are mountains hidden in mountains, there are mountains hidden in swamps. And that's certainly true. But the great freedom of letting the map go, just letting it go. Although sometimes it's very scary, but once we're ready for it, that's how we really enlighten ourselves and all beings. And we can use lots of maps, but once we need to learn to let them go and come back to just the natural way of life in nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I found the Bath Gatha. Here, now that I look at it, I remember it. Mokioka Shintai Token Shujo Shinjin Muku Nage Kogetsu. That's all.
Oh.
It's bathing the body, may all living beings wash body and mind free from dust, pure and shining within and without.
Oh, so those gathas come from Japan, right?
Well, they probably come from China.
Yeah, but I mean, I did some research, but I didn't realize they were so endemic in Zen in Japan and probably China too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, other than Suzuki, the only other person who did this back then that I knew, although Suzuki didn't do it much, was Thich Nhat Hanh. He did it. He was into gathas.
Yeah.
But you're saying that lots of the Japanese teachers were, I think. I didn't realize that.
Well, I don't know. I I don't know that. I just know there are some, and that I used them. There's one for going to sleep, the bath. There's one for shaving your head, bell ringing. They had chant for everything.
I should have talked to you before I wrote this chapter, but anyway.
No, it's better just to write about what you know, and not do any research, because information is endless.
Yeah, that's right. Especially with AI. Have you tried AI yet?
You know what I'm using AI for, that I'm aware of, is I'll take this the recording of this, and I'll transcribe it with AI.
Really?
It's a really good transcription, and I can transcribe, both of us are, I can just transcribe yours. Like I just had a talk with Ed Brown, and I didn't want to hear what I had to say. I didn't want to read what I had to say. I just wanted to go over what he said. I mean, I transcribed both of them with the AI, but I made one of just his track, and so I could just see what he had to say, it's really helped me. I've just started it recently. Now to get it ready to put online, I think nice to wait a little while for it to evolve more, and it's evolving very fast. It's going to evolve too fast. But it's really good for now, rather than going over it and listening, and I can read it, and I can say, I'll cut all this stuff out mainly I just cut stuff out I say,
that's cool that you can do that. That's great. And who knows what it's going to be like in a couple of years, huh?
Yeah. I think it can be very dangerous.
I know.
But look, there's so many dangers from so many different directions now. There's political dangers, there's climate danger, which sort of trumps everything. There's nuclear war danger, which sort of trumps everything. There's AI danger, who knows what's going to happen.
I think climate change is the biggest trump card myself, but what do I know? That's what I think.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, unless there's a big accidental nuclear war. Which we're on the brink of all the time, and people don't realize it. But yeah, climate change seems to me pretty much is the end of the game. But maybe people will figure out what to do. It doesn't look like the human race is making good enough effort.
That's right. Does the government in Bali believe in it?
People believe in it. People believe in it.
Trump's people don't believe in it.
No, that's right. That's why I stopped. Many people don't buy into it or believe in it, but the important thing is what are we doing about it? Even people who believe in it, know it, understand what a threat is, aren't making the changes that are necessary. But individual changes at this point are just like feel-good stuff. It needs massive change at the by governments and big business and military.
That's right.
And
that's right.
It's just not happening. But I think it's good for us to do what we can, regardless of how hopeless it looks. And as you know, there's a bigger picture in which everything's all right.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to get back here to doing this.
Pardon me. I just keep
that's fine. I'm interested.
Throwing obstacles
I'm
in your path.
No, you don't. An obstacle is a portal. That's one of the themes of my book.
Hey, there you go.
Really?
Yeah.
One of the themes of my life. An obstacle is a portal.
Yeah.
I may not feel it at the time, but later I realized.
I agree with you. I really agree with you. And I'd say failure is a portal, and regrets are a portal. Yeah. All right, go on. Let's hear it.
So then I talk a little about neuroplasticity. I'm a psychologist, and I talk about how we contract around what we know, but to stumble into wakefulness, to stumble toward enlightenment, we have to just loosen up, and we have a natural neuroplasticity if we just notice when we're contracting around what we know, and just breathe through it and open up and let it settle. And neuroplasticity brings the splinters and the fragmentation that we're hiding forward, and we have a chance to open up to whole being Buddha nature. And that brings me to part 3, which is falling awake. And in part 3, I start by saying the harder we push, the more the walls harden that keep us separate, that keep. Yeah. Well, any of us who's practiced for a long time, or we practice with difficulty, notice that. But at some point, when the mind gets exhausted, it just gives up and the boundaries dissolve. And then, as Dogen says, we're enlightened by all things. We always were enlightened by all things, but we're so caught in protecting ourselves that we didn't feel it. Mm. So that's my first chapter on falling awake. Then my second chapter is penetrating dualistic thinking. And, I don't talk about this much in the book, but depression and anxiety are that's deep dualistic thinking. Things will never get better. I can never improve. I can never be successful. I always fuck up. That's radical dualistic thinking. But if we can penetrate that, if we can collapse the dichotomy between suffering and joy, and I call that dancing with Nagarjuna's tetralemma. So this tetralemma is right now I'm in pain, and that's the first step. And the second step is the fact that I'm talking to you means that I'm also not in pain. And I'm actually not in pain, but just I'm just pretending. Right now I'm in pain. I say when my student's in pain, but you're talking to me. You're not in pain. And then I say, and then can you move on to the third step in the tetralemma, being both in pain and not in pain. And then Nagarjuna, to complete the tetralemma, says to let go of being both in pain and not in pain, and just let it all go. So I call that dancing with Nagarjuna's tetralemma. And actually,
wait. Isn't the fourth one being neither in pain nor not in pain?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's letting it go. That's letting go of the third one, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I teach that, and I teach that with movement sometimes. I'm not a sesshin, obviously, but I taught a kind of a workshop on it last year, and I had people move from one spot to another, and they got a sense of this in their bodies. Anyway, that's penetrating dualistic thinking. This pandemic has been really hard for my students. There's so many of them have gone into profound or rigid or asphyxiating, almost dualistic thinking. It's been so hard. Well, that in combination with the politics. Very hard time. I don't remember such a hard time before. People say the 60s wasn't that hard a time. It just wasn't.
No.
We were naive.
The 60s, well, it was bad because there was war, horrible war going on. But it was a wonderful time.
Yeah, it was. It was, So anyway, penetrating dualistic thinking is my 10th chapter.
Wait, then I want to stay with this a little.
Okay.
First, I want to ask you, you talk about your students and your group. What's the name of your group? Where is it?
It's the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. It's here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm no longer the guiding teacher. I'm a senior teacher now because I'm of my advanced age, but I have a lot of students, and I'm going to ordain 3 more people soon, although I'm not doing it anymore. After I said, I can't do this after 80 because, I'm like Biden. I'm going to be hanging around at 86 giving people Dharma transmission. That'll be interesting. Anyway, Minnesota Zen Meditation Center, where David, I've been for years and years and years. Eric Storley and I together were here at this meditation center in I came down to a retreat that I talked about that in something that I sent you, that Katagiri led in about 72 or 73. So, and then we moved here in 75. The same time you remember the building, we bought the building in 75.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
That's a long time. And my Zen has been a little bit willy-nilly. I just did other stuff and left Zen Center for a while and came back and worked with a Native American shaman for a while, and good stuff, but other stuff.
Mm-hmm. How was the shaman? How was working with the shaman?
Yeah, his name was. His name. Oh, wonderful. Although he didn't have, I wouldn't say that he had the depth and breadth that Suzuki had, but it was still wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I don't think Katagiri did either. Now, I know some people will really disagree with me about that, but maybe that's because I was a young man and Suzuki charmed me. But he also had such a huge influence on me, even in my dreams, that, turn my life around completely.
Yeah.
And of course, I know a lot of people say that about Suzuki, but as you know, he was my teacher in 1964 when there were hardly any of us. And so he only did these really short doksans, but it didn't matter because, we were there together. I lived across the street, and I opened the group in Palo Alto that he wanted me to do. So, I was lucky. Did you feel like you had access to him? Oh, maybe you did. He liked you a lot. Yeah, maybe you did.
Yeah, but I was, if I wanted to talk to him, I just went and talked to him. I didn't wait. And it was very hard for a lot of people to see him as Zen Center got bigger. I'd just go over and talk to him.
He got to be a big deal, and then people were afraid to just do what you and I did, which is kind of say,
right,
sensei.
I know. Well, it probably wouldn't have worked if everybody had been like us. Then he would have been. People were thoughtful, and I don't want to bother him, and I'll let other people say him rather than me. Yeah, but I didn't take up a lot of his time. I know he didn't want it. really didn't want to talk much.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when I talk about penetrating dualistic thinking, I also talk about Dogen's one bright pearl as a metaphor.
Wait. Before you leave dualistic thinking, are you still on dualistic thinking?
Yeah.
All right, because I want you to define it. I want you to tell us what it is.
Oh, well, dualistic thinking is any time we just get caught by a concept or an emotion, or because an emotion and a concept go together. That's dualistic, because each concept and each emotion, if we open up the whole being Buddha nature, it includes its opposite, and we can feel that, and we don't have to get stuck on it. So dualistic thinking is just getting caught on the fact that I'm a Zen teacher, or that I just turned 80. Oh, sure, I've just turned 80, but also, I'm not 80. And, I'm both 80 and not 80, and neither 80 nor 80.
Well,
but dualistic thinking doesn't take Nagarjuna's whole tetralemma. It just focuses on one, and we get stuck on that one.
Well, then why is it called dual, which means two? Why isn't it called monolithic thinking?
Good point. I don't know. That's the literature, and that's what Suzuki Roshi said. He said, and I'm paraphrasing it here. He said, we do a Hinayana practice with a Mahayana attitude. So
yeah, that's right.
My version of that is we do a dualistic practice with a non-dualistic attitude.
His idea of Hinayana practice and they should not have used that word, Theravada practice or practice of the elders or something, is not the idea that most of the Theravadins I know have, they get pretty literal. And he was non-literal.
He was non-literal about everything, even the precepts. First time he talked to us about the precepts. I don't say it was the first time he did it, but when I was there, he said we got to the point where he said, "Do not get intoxicated," and he said, "Yes, do not get intoxicated by my teaching or anybody's teaching."
Yeah, right. There you go. There you go.
That was always his approach.
Yeah.
That's non-dual. That's non-dualistic.
Yeah. That's true. So, all right. Well, that's pretty
anyway,
good. Let me tell you one thing. He gave.
Sure.
We talk about dualistic thinking. One thing I think of is the six patriarchs' admonition to all his disciples who were gathered around him as he was waning away and about to pass from this earthly realm. He said, "Look, it's easy." I'm paraphrasing. All you have to do, he says, everything's divided up into opposites. Everything's opposites. There's 68 or whatever he said, pairs of opposites. And when you deal with your student, they're going to be attached to one side of some pair of opposites. All you have to do is go to the other side. Just keep knocking them off.
Exactly.
So that he was talking about dualistic thinking. And then once in a lecture, Suzuki was talking about this sort of thing, and he said, "All right, let's divide up all the people on the right side of the partition. You speak from the point of view of the first principle, and all the people, or you ask a question from first principle. All people on the left, from the second principle. And the first principle, you could say, is like." The absolute, and the second principle is form or whatever. And it was very hard for us to succeed in that.
That's wonderful. I heard that. It wasn't while I was around, but I heard it.
Yeah.
It must have made an impression on more than you.
So, all right, one bright pearl.
Anyway, then one bright pearl. So Dogen says, everything is one bright pearl. He gets this from the China originally. Dogs and cats are one bright pearl. The sun and moon is one bright pearl. And he goes on and on. The grasses are one bright pearl. And when I teach about it, I say yes. And it's that sand that's in the oyster that you want to kick out. But with your practice, if you really want to penetrate dualistic thinking, you've got to just breathe with that sand. You just got to be with it and open to it, and that's your one bright pearl. So I don't know. I think I talked about that in this book, but I did talk about one bright pearl in this book.
Now, when you say the sand, what you're referring to, it's a little grain of sand that creates the pearl in the oyster.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And of course we want to kick it out, but our determined effort is just to stay with it and be with it and until it opens up and it becomes translucent, and our life becomes translucent.
Mm.
And of course, if we expect that, it doesn't happen. That's why we just practice. At least that's what I tell my students. And of course, I don't mean I still don't do it myself, but I am more relaxed these days.
You were talking about when you had the mantra. I remember that you were very intense.
Yeah.
You were very serious. And we had the meal chant. A long chant. Man, we'd chant more than we ate. We'd spend more time chanting. And during the meal could go on for an hour, and we just have, a few minutes to eat. Anyway, it's the way it seemed. But in that chant, there's one point at which we say, let's see now, something like, may my practice deserve it. What does it say?
We need to consider if our virtue and practice deserve it.
That's right.
We need to consider if our...
At that point, one day, you decided that your virtue and practice didn't deserve it. So you wouldn't receive any food. You might even have just closed up your oryoki, and you wouldn't eat. So at that rate, you were going to starve yourself to death because your practice and virtue didn't deserve the food. But somehow you lived. But I remember that.
I want to tell you a story about that. We've had that in our meal chant here at our Zen Center for all these years. I wanted to take it out because so many of my people are down on themselves. And I thought, God, they don't need that.
Right.
And I struggled, and finally the guy who was my former student, Ted O'Toole, just 2 weeks ago took it out.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm going to be leading our session on the weekend, and that's not going to be in there. Wow, people are so down on themselves.
No kidding.
I don't know. Were we that down on ourselves? I don't remember.
Well, well, there's always some element of that. But that's a lot to think about. Now I'll how right now I'm thinking, well, how universal is that? How much of that is cultural in America? And I start thinking about Are people here as down on themselves, people in America? Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, American psychologists call this the negativity bias. And really, it's only been in the United States they've done the research. But there's a lot of research on the self-negativity bias.
Yeah.
And so then you hear there's no self, and it just makes the bias worse.
Yeah. Well, people get confused about that, and when they say there's no self, they get too absolute and grab hold of it and see one side of it, right? And it's sort of superficial. Incidentally, the first time I came to Bali was in '92, and there was a group of Japanese sociologists here. Not a group. There were a few, very few. And they were studying why people here are so relaxed compared to Japan. Right? And they were studying Nepal and Bali. They thought they wanted to try to help their fellow countrymen not be so uptight. I thought that was interesting. Well, maybe they need to have animals.
Anywhere?
Huh? What?
Did that go anywhere? Did they
I
come
doubt
up with
it.
any conclusion?
Well, most of our efforts and studies don't go anywhere. But one thing I thought recently, well, Nepal and Bali are the two countries in the world that have the most animal sacrifice. And if Japan, people aren't aware of that. If Japan was wanted to be relaxed as people here in Nepal, maybe they ought to start sacrificing animals.
Bad Buddhism. Bad Buddhism.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody that said, all these chickens that have been sacrificed, they get dumped in the stream near his home, smell it up in the middle of the night. They're gone. But I think it's being reduced. I was hearing stories that were about what was happening at the time when we got here, about all the cattle, cows and other animals being pushed off boats, being weighted down. I don't know what they had in mind. I know one woman has gone to some Vipassana retreats I've gone to. She's a doctor, and her father built this hospital, and her mother founded a school, and she has a home between the two. And so she has important ceremonies, Hindu ceremonies, where she has an important role, where they'll sacrifice chickens and stuff, and she doesn't like it. She said, but if they don't do it, like if they're building something and you don't sacrifice, then if something bad happens, everybody will blame you for not doing it.
I see.
So it's
it's not a good place. Well, of course, there aren't too many good places in the world that's good to be a chicken. I don't think.
The chicken is the most successful animal in the world from the point of view of reproduction, of chickens, the dog, and the cat, because they got people to reproduce them. Whereas the wolf, people, wipe out. So the dog is far superior to the wolf in terms of survival. And it's just a wolf, has been bred in different ways.
Yeah. Well, the dog knew how to do skillful means with humans.
Yeah, no kidding.
Knew how to do a upaya with humans.
Oh, no kidding. They developed facial expressions that make people melt and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we're just putty in their hands. And chickens, one of the signs of the Anthropocene, the new geological era, is chicken bones, beaches of chicken bones.
No, I see.
They're worn down. But chicken bones are a major geological, I guess you'd call it, sign that human beings have added to the world.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, please continue with One Bright Pearl here.
So that's about enough for One Bright Pearl. Then I have two more chapters. One on the paramitas, the new attitude toward the paramitas, which is non-dualistic and can help us fall awake. And I go through each of the paramitas, and I define a para as beyond, and mita as that which goes beyond. Paramita, the gone beyond. So there's generosity, but if it's going to be help us fall awake, we need to be generous to our stinginess and generous to other people's stinginess, because that's non-dual. When people are stingy because they're afraid, we're stingy because we're afraid. And I go through each of the six. Ethical behavior, not a code, but a manifestation of whole being Buddha nature, like our interconnection, inner being with all life. So if we do it as a code, that's not very helpful. It's not very helpful. Doesn't mean that we should take advantage of people, but if we really open up, we feel connected to others, and we don't want to take advantage of them. And that's the inner being that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about all the time. He takes emptiness. He used the term inner being. So often he's dependent co-origination. He uses inner being, which is just an easier word for Americans to get.
How do you spell it? Are you there?
Inner being.
Spell it.
N-G. That's what.
No. Spell inner being.
I-N.
I've lost you.
T.
I'm not hearing anything.
That's what I'm spelling. Inner being. Inter being.
Oh, I-N-T-E-R.
Am I gone?
Yeah, well, you've been cutting out, but it'll go away.
That's right.
So you're saying interbeing, I-N-T-E-R being.
Yeah, that's right. Enter. And you.
Oh, wait a minute. Hey, Tim, I think I should call. Tim, I think I should call you back because you're just.
Oh, okay.
It might go away, but there's just been these blank spaces recently when we were talking about inner being.
Oh, hang up.
Yeah, okay. And I'll call you right back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm going to call you back.
Okay. Hello?
All right, well, here we are again. We'll see how this works.
Okay, I was just looking for my Skype name. I don't know where it is.
No matter.
Anyway, okay. Okay. Well, I only have, we're kind of toward the end of the book now.
Hey, you should backtrack. You should backtrack a little.
Okay, we're in the falling awake. the third part of the book. After we've done the hard work, we've been in the rock tumbler. I do talk about that in the book. Really, being in a sangha, being with a teacher is like being in a rock tumbler. And if it doesn't smooth our edges, we're not going to fall away. But if it smooths our edges, we're ready to fall away. And so then we can penetrate dualistic thinking, rigid thinking of either or, which really brings us down. I mean, people who are stuck at one side or the other always are down on themselves or others. That's why when I talk about one bright pearl, and Dogen saying you need that piece of sand in there. Dogen didn't say that. I'm the one who says that.
Yeah, right.
He said one bright pearl, and I say, yeah. And then inner being. I bring up inner being, and I bring it up because it's a word that Thich Nhat Hanh uses a lot when he's trying to explain emptiness, because people get stuck on emptiness, but he just explains pretty clearly. But it's pretty clear. All emptiness means is that everything is contingent on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And since everything is contingent on everything else, it's all inner being. So we don't have to get into this negative emptiness mode. It's all positive. It's just one flow of life where everything is penetrating everything else.
Yeah.
And that's pretty wonderful, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that you're saying INTER being, because a person could easily think you're saying INNER being.
Oh, inner being, I see. Yeah,
they sound almost the same. They're just this little T sound there, inner being.
Right. And of course, I don't talk about this in the book, but that's the Buddhist definition of emptiness. The Taoist definition is a little different because it's all about emptying your mind. And that Suzuki talks about that. But Nagarjuna says that belief in emptiness or in emptying your mind is just as limited a belief as any other belief. So get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, and the Taoists would say back to him, we're just being evocative, Nagarjuna. Don't be such a literalist. We're just painting a picture.
That's nice.
Anyway, I do talk. I don't know if I talk about that in the book. I talk about that all the time because emptiness is so hard for Americans. It may not be hard for Balinese, but it's hard for Americans.
Well, they don't talk about emptiness here.
I see.
They're animists. People here are animists.
Oh, yeah. Well, animus is fullness, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. But they have, they talk about, mainly they just sort of do their thing,
Yeah.
They make offerings and do ceremonies. And I'm going to a very special ceremony tonight. It's I don't know if it's sort of. It's at a temple. It's it'll be interesting to see how many foreigners are there. It's drama gong, and gong is a word for gamelan, the music here. It's a Balinese word, and drama gong is and there's another word for it, not drama, but they can understand drama gong. It's the gamelan with a dramatic component, acting out something. So I'll see what it is. A friend of mine's been here 50 years, and he takes me to these more esoteric things.
That's cool.
But
that's cool.
And they say, oh yeah, they love Buddhism, but when I look into their Buddhism, it's just Buddha's a reincarnation of Vishnu, and I just like sitting and most of what people think of as religion and everything
So,
is to me. I just look at it as sort of cultural, like an anthropologist. I go, oh, that's interesting.
well,
You
a
know,
lot of people would say that about San Francisco Zen Center too, wouldn't they?
people say different
What?
things.
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, not they wouldn't say that about, as you said, the Antaiji lineage, but all of the forms and rituals and cultural overlay at San Francisco Zen Center, they would say that.
yeah, that's true. I do think it's ripe for a good anthropological uh, and a sociological study.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should stick a team of social scientists on it,
Yeah.
on all of us.
Yeah.
I do think about that actually. This is not the first time, because of the emphasis on sort of catering to the latest concerns of their clientele.
Uh-huh.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
sort of. I heard some people talking recently. Actually, Bill Maher had some guests that were talking about how universities now, the students are like customers, and so
Oh,
they have to cater to their customers, and
really?
the students are having so much more to say about what's happening, and the universities have become very sensitive to the winds of change of what's appropriate and not, and what's
Yeah.
politically
Yeah.
correct and not, and Zen
Yeah.
centers like that. But I don't know if that's avoidable, for an institution. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
If
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, our Zen Center is doing some of that too. It's happening all over the United States right now.
yeah,
In the liberal enclaves, in the in the liberal enclaves.
right. Well, yeah,
Meanwhile, the red state people are just aghast. So the division, talk about duality. Wow.
yeah.
The division between the two groups, more than in the 60s. More than in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's enormous. Well, each side has their the things they want to censor, and
Yeah.
and but I don't know. Of course, it's more complex than that. But yeah, I'm worried about the future of
Well,
America.
each side should get a dose of Nagarjuna's tetralemma.
Yeah.
They should be required to dance the tetralemma.
Yeah.
and red people would have to dance with blue people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Kurt Vonnegut had a solution long ago. God, how long ago was that? That he wrote before he was, back like when the Cat's Cradle came out. Back in then, he wrote it might have been before it. I don't know, 50 years ago or something. He wrote it was a short piece, like an essay, on how we should divide up the world and assign everybody. I think it was a number, like 1 through 10, and randomly you get a 1 through 10, and then that's your group, that's your tribe, and you meet with those people, and then you get prejudiced against the 2s, you get prejudiced against the 7s, and what the 7s, what they're like, that, and don't ever hire one of them. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one. That one bypassed me.
Yeah. Well, if my daughter marries a 7, then that's it. I'm disowning her.
Right. Well, anyway, this is next to last chapter. I'm talking about a new attitude toward the paramitas, focusing on generosity in a narrow way. We're all trying to be more generous than the other person, and it's kind of fake. But if we can really open up to our stinginess and other people's stinginess, ethical behavior is fake if we just do the rules. And patience, we got to be, that's the third paramita, patient with our impatience. Really, patient with our impatience. And the fourth one, effort, virya. Suzuki's comment, a good bonfire burns itself completely away. So we don't have to make a special effort. We just give ourselves to it and forget about effort. And the bonfire burns. So then I talk about the fifth one, meditation. And I say meditation, as I've been talking about during the whole book, we open ourselves to the hidden parts, to the scary parts. We don't try to be deeply concentrated, and we will become concentrated, but we don't try to meditate. And of course, that's good Sozen, the way Dogen says. The Zazen I teach is not meditation. That's good Sozen.
Yeah.
And then prajna, the last one, wisdom. Prajna, not jnana. So jnana, is the deep knowledge that comes from Shariputra, Jnana. But prajna, Avalokiteshvara tells him about that, and prajna, pra in Sanskrit, before. So before knowledge, before we divide the world up into those who know and don't know, that's the wisdom prajna. So that's the wisdom of which embraces stupidity, which doesn't try to, be anybody special. Just like Suzuki was most of the time. I know he wasn't like that all the time, but much of the time. And, I remember his barber son to me. I remember saying to his barber son in San Francisco, I didn't know the other son. I never met the other son. But was the barber son named Otohiro? I think
that's right.
Otohiro.
That's right. Yeah. The other son's is Dharma or Hoitsu.
Yeah. I remember saying to Otohiro, "Oh, your father, what a wonderful man." He said, "That man, not father I grew up with." And you talk about that in Crooked Cucumber.
Yeah.
You talk, so,
Yeah. Otohiro is very sweet. He was a barber in the Army.
Oh, was he? Is he still around?
Oh, yeah. Well, as far as I know, yeah, he's very sweet. His wife's very sweet. He worked for Japan Airlines a lot, and then had a tour company for Japanese. He might still.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So Japanese come over, they'd take him around.
So he moved beyond just being a barber, it sounds like.
That was just something he did when he was very young.
Oh, yeah?
And I know he was a barber in the Army. He
was a barber in San Francisco when I first met him.
Oh, is that right? Oh, well, that's...
I'm sure, yeah.
Oh.
I'm sure.
Oh, that's
I'm sure
neat.
he was.
Yeah.
Well,
Huh. Maybe I should call him up. The best thing to do with him is interview him in Japanese.
Do you speak Japanese?
Well, I used to have enough to interview somebody.
How long did you live in Japan, David?
4 years. But I studied Japanese a lot before I went there. But I was good enough to interview people, but not good enough to understood everything they said when they were answering. But anyway, Otohiro's, I really like him. He's a very sweet guy. Yeah.
Anyway, so I talk about these 6 paramitas in a more non-dualistic way, and then I quote Dogen's taking the backward step and say we're always glued to the foreground, and Instead, let's just enjoy the background. Let's just enjoy it and not be glued to the foreground. Let's take the backward step together and look at these different opportunities that seem like hindrances as portals to help us open up beyond our ideas of who we are and who we should be and who we have been. And then I talk about the Heart Sutra at the very end with its Bodhisvaha leading to that, having denied everything. And it's weird. I don't talk about this in the book, but it's weird that we've all been chanting this Heart Sutra for so long a time. What it's negating is those beliefs of the first 400 years of Buddhism, which are not even our beliefs. If we were to negate, if you and I and Eric Storley were to sit down and write everything we believed, and then every day negate them in the morning in a chant form, that would be the modern version of the Heart Sutra.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it wasn't really negating them. It was saying they were empty.
It does say no, not, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. It does.
Well, but it's saying that all that it's empty of self nature.
Of course, but on the surface it doesn't look like it's saying
no. Well, that everybody got too attached and was being too literal, and literalism to me is the disease of religion.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And it's a big problem, and it's so he was dealing with literalism. The great Christian writer known as Pseudo-Dionysius or Pseudo-Dionysius. Who was an anonymous monk somewhere in Syria and
I actually don't know him.
The 4th century. Well, he did the same thing with Christianity.
I see.
And look it up. The mystical theology of Pseudo-Dionysius. And it's exactly what he does.
Is it the same spelling of Dionysus as the Greek Dionysus, the Greek god?
Yeah. Well, it might be a little different. I mean, but it's very easy. Just write mystical theology. I've got it on Cuke.com. And see, his trip was first you affirm everything. So you affirm it's the names of God. He's affirming all the names of God from the highest to the lowest. So it starts off, God is omniscient or whatever. God is great. God is good. And it goes down to, God's angry. God's drunk. And then he says, and then you go back up from the bottom to the top, negating it all.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. And so he says it is not truth. It is not, and he didn't really use the word God. It's a first cause. It is not kingship. It is not name. It is not. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, it's great. I love it. I love it. I read it every year.
He's a Christian mystic in Greece.
Yeah, he's a recognized saint in the Catholic Church, and he's the most inspiring person to like Meister Eckhart and Thomas Aquinas.
Oh yeah. I see. Of course, I know them some. Well, does he in danger of getting excommunicated, like Meister Eckhart almost did?
No.
Back then?
Almost. Most people don't realize it was almost. They did excommunicate him. I mean, he was found guilty, but it wasn't, and the Pope couldn't stand him. Because he said all beings are nothing, just pure nothing. But But when the Meister Eckhart Society in England petitioned the Catholic Church to reinstate him, and they said there's no record of him being excommunicated.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, let me close because it's getting late here.
Yeah, I'm going to put you to sleep.
For an 80-year-old, so I'm flaunting my age. I've been 80 for 3 days, and I'm having fun flaunting it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to have fun with it. I think what's bad is to be telling yourself, now I'm 80, I'm going to be old and tired and sick and whatever,
Yeah, well,
that's bad programming.
Instead of that, a few people, I had a little birthday party, and a few people missed it, and I said, they apologized. I said, that's okay, you can come to my 90th.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. So, having done all of those activities that help us fall into wakefulness, then we're ready for. I think the first part of the Heart Sutra really is endarkenment, which is entering into enlightenment, and but we've got to go through that endarkenment first.
That's what pseudo-Dionysus says too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Definitely.
Good. I wonder why I read Meister Eckhart over the years. There must be books about him, huh?
The best thing is just to read his mystical theology. It's very short. I mean, you can read the whole thing in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah, you can get a big book. I mean, he does all sorts of things. He explains what angels are and all the different types, and what the highest and lowest, and he has all sorts of stuff. But when you get into his mystical theology, that's really that's the I'll tell you the two key things he says I love to remember. One, I think it's all letters to his brother Timothy, and one thing he says is don't even bother trying to talk about this stuff to those who can only see things in terms of individual being. It's just lost cause. Yeah. And he said, but even worse than that are those who describe the highest in terms of the lowest. And that's literalism. That's literalism,
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, that's interesting. I'll look it up. So I just want to end with a story, which is so I don't remember if it's in this book, but I did a podcast yesterday, and I think it's in this book. This is the second podcast I've done. I did one for, I don't know, what is it? Lion's Roar yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, that'll hit a lot of people. I think I'll tell Barry to do one with you. He gets a lot of people too. See, I don't promote or advertise it. I just do it. It's just a record.
I see.
I need
You'll tell who?
Barry. I can't remember his last name now. He's really good.
Okay.
He does,
that would be great.
Yeah, and I'd tell you another person I would suggest is John Joseph from the Pacific Zen Institute. He does really good ones.
Oh, I don't know him. Would you mind sending me an email with all those names?
Yeah.
Unless you're willing with the first, and if you're willing to just contact one of those.
No, it'd be better for me to contact them. I'll do it right away.
Oh, great, cool, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me tell you a bedtime story. And I know for you it's a wake-up story, but it sounds like you're already awake. What time do you wake up?
I got up at 5:30 this morning, but right now it's
Oh.
10:23.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you get up early. Oh.
Well, I got up early. I got up somewhere between 4 and 8.
Oh, I see.
Usually more like 6 to 7.
Oh, I see.
But just when I wake up.
I would love to be on one or both of those podcasts. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to tell you my bedtime story.
All right.
So when I was 9 years old, so my parents used to take me into the mountains in the Sierras every year, every summer. My dad was a hiker. You know, I grew up in Palo Alto and would go into the Sierras. Well, when I was 9, they took me up. We were staying at a kind of camp at 10,000 feet, and my dad got this idea that my mom and he and I would climb this 14,000 foot peak, Mount Langley, so we got up before dawn and we went. I was into it actually, even at 9. I was into the mountains even then, and we started up and we had a good map and we had trail guides and it was all good, and I could follow the trail and I could see how many miles I had to go on the map and where the curves were, and I was kind of a map kid. And then I was getting really tired, and we got up to Timberline, and all of a sudden there were no maps, and all of a sudden there were no signs, and there were just rocks, and it was totally disorienting for me. And my mother would walk ahead of me, and she would then stop when I would cry and be too far behind and just wait for me patiently and then keep walking. And it was an ordeal that I didn't like at all, but I didn't have any choice. And I just stayed with it. I stayed with it. And then, I was exhausted, but I kept doing it. And then I finally got to the top, and I had kind of a 9-year-old enlightenment experience of thinking, wow, and my mother and this is beautiful, this is wonderful. And I let go of all of my judging, all of my kind of how far is this, where are we on the map? And I didn't even care about the map. And I remember my mother telling me I should sign my name because I was 9 years old. And she wondered how many 9-year-olds had done this. And I just laughed. Because I had let go of all those maps in my mind and just was able to be there. So that's my 9-year-old enlightenment experience.
That's good. I like that. That's really good. Well, hey, remind us of the name of this book you've been talking about the whole time.
It's called Enlightenment Is an Accident, Ancient Wisdom and Practices to Make You Accident Prone.
Yeah. Well, I think you've done a really good job with talking about it, but also using that title, which we dealt with a lot in the past. I think it makes a lot of sense for this book. And look, this is your third book?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working on my fourth.
All right. Tell me what's your first and second.
Nothing holy about it. That's the first one. I don't remember what the subtitle is. And the second one is Zen in the Age of Anxiety. And nothing holy about it, refers to that statement by Bodhidharma.
Right. Right. When the emperor asked him.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the first principle of your holy teaching?
Uh-huh.
A vast emptiness with nothing holy about it.
Yeah, right. And the second book?
Zen in the age of anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we have Enlightenment Is an Accident.
Yeah. I didn't, enough anxiety.
Right. And what's your fourth one going to be?
Well, it's going to be something about dualism and non-dualism. Something about, Suzuki's, again, paraphrasing Suzuki and using language that's not pejorative. We do dualistic practices with a non-dualistic attitude, something along those lines. And I'm going to go back and trace the early yogas, I think. It's going to be a little more historical and maybe, I don't know. If I make it, right now I'm into it, but my editor, Wanda, is she's into it too, but she's not that much younger than I am, so we'll see. But anyway, we're having a good time.
All right. Well, looking forward to that one. Thanks for coming out with this one, and and thanks for continuing to blaze the trail of practice.
You're very welcome. It's just my pleasure to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to ask you how Ed Brown's doing. We were kind of friends years and years ago. I went in 1966. I used to give him a ride to San Francisco State every day. So, I was better friends with his brother, Dwight Brown. Did you ever know Dwight Brown?
Yeah.
No, I was better friends with Dwight. How is Ed?
He's doing good. He's, he's got a home in Fairfax.
Where's that? Where's Fairfax? Near Oakland?
No,
near Mill Valley.
Fairfax. I think Larkspur. No, Fairfax. I'm looking at the map. Yeah, it's Fairfax. On the way from San Rafael to the ocean. He's got
a home
Fairfax.
There. Good.
It's a very nice. But he lives more in Philo with a community there that support him and that practice.
Oh, really?
Him. Yeah. But I don't know the details. I just talked to him for a long talk recently. Before you go, you first came to Tassajara before the first practice period, or did you just show up for it, or what?
Linda and I came the week before it started.
Yeah.
Were you already there? I don't remember.
Yeah, I was.
There were some people who were already there. Yeah.
I came in like March.
No, we were there. We started. We got down there the week before it started.
Yeah. I loved it. It was great. That was a terrific period before the first practice period. There was up to 12 of us, and it was just neat. Things were starting to form. Is there? Do you remember anything that's? You were there, so you were there for the first practice period, which was
I sure was
2 months. Part 1 and part 2. Do you remember Maizumi being there and sort of leading the first one?
I do, and I'm going to tell you a story about Maizumi, but I would rather you not write it down. You remember I had this big enlightenment experience at Tassajara, and I had it when Maizumi was there.
Right,
and
you had it right away, the first session.
Yeah. And then I went back to San Francisco. Maizumi was in San Francisco. Or no, it was still at Tassajara. We were at Tassajara. After this was like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later or something, Maizumi approached me, and I think it was at Tassajara. It could have been at San Francisco, and said, you know, you had a good experience. I've had many experiences like this. I'm going to be starting a center. You should come with me. I know how to work with someone like you. And I was confused, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Well, I was a little confused and a little bit seduced, partway seduced, and but I didn't say anything to. Maybe I did say something to Linda about it, and then a couple of days later, in San Francisco, I was with Suzuki. And I don't think he was wrong when Maizumi was talking to me. It's one of those psychic things, I guess. He said to me, he took me aside and he said, "You have a great treasure within you. Someone may try to take it from you. Don't let anybody take it from you." Jeez, what? And so I didn't. So I just had nothing to do with Maizumi after that. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but don't say that shouldn't be repeated. I have other stories like that about Maizumi. Trungpa did the same thing. And Suzuki liked Trungpa. It's okay. They're just trying to recruit students.
And okay. Well, maybe I did. Maybe it's fine to say it. But was Suzuki psychic in that instance?
Well, you've told other things about Suzuki that were psychic.
Yes.
You said,
so he was psychic.
He'd tell you something in a dream, and then you'd go see him, and then he'd say the exact same thing.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I stayed with him.
Yeah. In fact, you might have told me that before. But Maizumi tried to get people to come with him, but Trungpa did it when he came to Zen Center. He would right away. He was saying, "Why don't you come practice with me?" And and a number of people did, and Suzuki didn't mind that because he felt that Trungpa could, was younger and could handle more people, and
I see. Well, evidently he didn't feel that way about Maizumi.
Well, that's true. That's true. But in time, Maizumi, he matured and right there at that pivotal time in the 66, 67, he was trying to get something going. He wanted to be part of the San Francisco Zen Center. He wanted his group to be affiliated, and Suzuki wouldn't do it. And Dick Baker was really down on him.
I remember that. I remember Dick telling me to watch out for that guy. He said that guy was in his house and he stole an orange. That's what he said about Maizumi. He stole an orange.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Well, I've stayed. I went down to L.A. some and stayed with Maizumi, and I would talk with him, and I would talk with him through the years, and he evolved. He matured much more nicely, but he always had problems. But the great thing about him, or one of the great things about him, is he wasn't really hypocritical. He would confess his problems. He would talk to his students about how he was an alcoholic and cry.
I see.
He had a problem with that all his life, and he'd sort of fluctuate between arrogance and humility.
I see. You got to know him well. I didn't know him that well.
Anyway, I think he was very interesting. And the Cimarron Zen Center, I've stayed there. No, that's Sasaki. Maizumi's group, whatever it was called. I really have enjoyed staying there. Liked the people. The various flaws that teachers have, I think, they're fun to talk about. And I certainly record them. And if you read what I've got on my Zoomy, I have a long piece on him on Cuke.com. I tell more than that. And
you can add that he was an orange stealer,
an orange thief. Right. This is really serious. So listen, I remember your experience, and I remember it being in the Zendo. Our Zendo that burned down eventually, but the first session was in the dining room. The very first one. Well, that happened at the end of the first month, and that's the one where my Zoomy was. So maybe your thing happened so early on. I'm wondering if it happened during Tongariro or what.
No, this was. I don't know. I'm just a little bit confused about what you say. I think that experience I had was late in that second month, so he wasn't around then. I don't know. Goodbye. 3 years.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The memory in sort of morphs and but anyway, do you remember anything else that stands out about, because I'm writing about that now, so I'm just trying to see if there's anything any highlight or
about what?
I'm writing about Tassajara at that time.
Oh. Well, let's see.
Actually, any memory you have of Tassajara that stands out? It doesn't have to be dharmic or anything.
Well, I do remember when we used to have these study groups, and Suzuki wasn't there, and he came in one day while we were having our study group, and he said, at first he hadn't wanted to come in because he was enjoying being outside, didn't want to come in with us, and then he said, I had a good time. And then I also remember, and you may remember this, David, that we had some kind of sort of a party at Tassajara at night, and Suzuki pulled like an aluminum, aluminum or tinfoil kind of pan, and he was flashing the pan in front of the square aluminum in front of the lights. He was making a light show. I very clearly remember him making that light show, and whatever we were doing in that party with the lights dimmed or something. I don't know. I'm going to tell. Yeah.
Go on.
I'm going to tell. That's all for that one. But then there's one other story that I want to tell you from way back then. So this is not during the summer. This was later in that year when it was getting colder. We had those work meetings every morning, and me and a couple of friends would say, and that was before, when we didn't have the electricity at night. He would talk, and we could just see his, there'd be the lanterns. Remember that?
Yeah.
Just the lanterns. And we would say to each other, was that a man speaking last night, or was that a woman? And we would sometimes say, hey, it seemed like it was a woman and then a man. That was, nobody knew anything about, he, she, they, or gender fluidity, but there we were, just kind of in awe of him and wondering. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
When you say we, who?
I don't remember. Maybe me, and I don't know who it would have been. One of you guys, one or two of you guys. I don't know who.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the light show, and the gender fluidity, two things I remember. Yeah.
That's cool. I think your light show was maybe after the practice period. There was
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it was.
There was a party in late December when most people had left, and he was there. It was like,
oh, yeah.
And he wore a lampshade on his head. I wasn't there. I've just heard about it.
Oh, yeah. That's. I don't remember with a lampshade on his head. I remember him with this large aluminum kind of thing, or he was making a light show.
Yeah. There weren't many of them. Okay, well, I appreciate that, and all right. Well, I'll send those emails, and I'll let you know what's happening with that. And
great.
You take care. It's been fun. We've been talking now for 2 hours and
I know. My
14 minutes.
I'm supposed to do the dishes here, so I got to get to work.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Okay.
Take care.
Right. Bye-bye. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good morning.
Good night. Good morning. Yeah, it was great talking to you, Tim. Take care.
Great talking with you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you very much, Tim Burkett. I appreciate that. Really good to hear what you had to say. Always good to talk with you. And until we meet again, this is DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sonora with Dogette Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. Oh, no, not Feline Cuchita. I forget. We have lost her. I just said that for a few years. She's deep in the garden now. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand. And that airplane's wishing it too. A grand awakening.